Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED development live stream. Great to be back for another week of some Node-RED issue fixing. I was trying to decide what to call this week's stream, and I had a look at the issue backlog, and we've seemed to have had a run of a few issues get raised over the last few days that need a bit of triage work. So I thought, rather than try and pick one of them out, we're going to see if we can do a bit of an issue speed run this evening. See where we can get to on a few different things. So I hope it's interesting. I hope it's fun. Do say hi in the chat. I see Roller49, welcome back. Risho, good to see you too. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, do leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Just seen we've recently hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is really quite cool, considering it's this live stream and it's the release blog posts, release videos on that channel. But no, it's great to see, and yeah, well, only ways up. So I'm going to crack straight on. Like I said, we're going to do a bit of an issue speedrun. Zoramel, good to see you in the chat. See all that now. You can see the chat as well, guys. A couple of weeks ago, I didn't call this out. I've tweaked some of the colours in the chat in the sidebar. Let me know if that works better, if it's readable. Yeah, there we are. Evening from sunny Leicester. Well, you say sunny. I mean, yeah, the clocks have gone back. It's not sunny. It has been sunny, but yeah, decidedly dark in the evenings here now. Right, speedrun. Can't speedrun by getting into small talk. Let's crack on. So as you can see, we've got quite a few issues. All these ones labelled needs triage. So any issue, if people do the right thing and do the report a bug, these days you get this cool GitHub lets you do cool much more structured templates than we used to have. So and anything that gets raised gets automatically labelled as needs triage, which is handy to see the stuff that hasn't yet been looked at. And it's always a good prompt to remind me to go back and relabel stuff I have looked at. But yeah, we're gonna do a bit of a speed run on these. First up, I think we're going to look at this one. So this is someone's saying, well, the issue is complaining that the function node does not resolve creating a new regex option, whereas that's actually a bit of a red herring. What I believe the issue is, if I just give myself a... Ooh, let's just import their flow. So they've got a function that creates a new regex option, sets message.debug to that regex and passes it on, and then a debug node to display the complete message object. So we deploy it, and when we inject, you can see debug shows up, but it's identified as an empty object, and that's because the encoder for the debug sidebar doesn't know about regex type objects. So we've looked at similar issues before around some other standard types, but we're gonna dive in and add a bit of support for regex type options. So we've been here before, and I'm sure we'll be here again, but we're going to dive into the code. Let me just check what state everything's in, because I've not actually been using this workspace this week. I've been doing lots of day job stuff. In fact, okay, there's something. We're in the dev branch. I need to go back to master, and we're going to check out a new branch, regex debug, and then rerun Node-RED. Okay, so that's that start here from the background. We're going to go find the debug code, and in fact, the debug code we care about isn't actually in the debug node. It's in the core of the editor, the common utilities we provide for encoding message objects. No, in fact, take that back. It's in two parts. There's a runtime encoding of objects, which is in util lib util. Actually, you have to say this file is right now for splitting up and refactoring, but we're not going to get into that. So in here we have got encode object. So let's go, and in fact, yeah, encode object. So this is the runtime function that can be passed a message or an individual property, and it does the work to do the JSON encoding, some special encoding, so we can send it over the net, over the WebSocket connection to the editor, and have the editor to be able to display its contents. So you can see it's basically a big if block, and it handles if it's an error type object, if it's a buffer, if message type, which comes from calling type of. Sorry, I jumped around there. So we get the type of the object there up the top. So down here we're saying if message type is object, then it does the work to handle it being an object. So what we want to do at this point is let's go and have a look at what. Let's make this big. Let's have a look at what a regex object actually looks like. So go into Node, call it R as new regex ABC. Okay, so type of R is indeed object. So that's not going to help us identify it. What we can look at is n.constructor.name. Okay, so that is something that's going to help us identify it's a regex type object. Scanning through, just looking for so is array, and then here you can start seeing we get into the different special cases, handling set, map. So here we're going to stick in a if message.message and message.message.constructor.name. I mean, it's a bit confusing. Message is is the name of the thing that gets passed in to be encoded, and it's expected to have a property called message, which is the actual thing to be encoded. I should remove that duplication in this code. It's just the name of the local variable, so we can do that. Yeah, rename this top one perfectly safely, and it'll make it a bit more readable. But that's not the game for tonight. So we're going to add some handling for the regex. Now, so this is good. We can just call toString on it, and it'll give us the stringified version of the regex. So we're going to set message.format to. Now, should we regex or regexp? Probably should be regex to be consistent with the type. Yeah, we'll go with that. And then set message.message to. Oh, I just want to check what this needs stringified does. And then I just want to go check what does. No, this is all good. So at this point, we're going to set the value now to message.message.toString. Okay, and we save that. Node-RED restarts in the background, and then because we don't need to reload the editor at this point because we've only. Right, yeah. So let's just inject. What are we getting? Oh, we're still getting. Inject. Okay, so we're still getting this object empty, which I wouldn't necessarily expect at this point. Let's just stick some debug in. let's make sure we are actually getting to this point of the code. Go to that window. So here we've got, here's my window running Node-RED. Oops. Oops again. Oops. So now if I go and inject, oh, okay, so it's not getting to that point. So all that code I confidently wrote, we're not getting to. So where is it getting held up? So we're going to stick in here just a line, just so we can see if we're getting there. And we'll see some of the output from some of the other properties. So, right. That makes sense. So the code I've written deals with if the property passed into this function is a regex, but the object being passed in here is actually a full message object. So in fact, we can see it's a subtle but important distinction. So two debug nodes. Yeah. So this this bottom one, you can now see it has worked in that it's now reporting the type there as a regex, and it's showing the toString value. The problem is this first one, which is displaying the complete object, it's not encoding the proper type there, and that's because we need to add, and I'm going to take out that. That's because we need to add in here somewhere. Here we go. So this is inside the code that recursively encodes objects. And we come all the way down here. And again, I'm just cribbing from what we did for map up here. So very similar code. We look at the constructor name of the value we're looking at. We don't need to set message.format. We will set value equal to, and we set this flag, which is an internal flag, to say this is an encoded object. We set the type to regex and the data to value.toString. Okay. So now let's clear that. And now when we run it, okay, we're getting closer. So now debug. So in the collapsed view, debug says it's an object. So that's something weird. So we're now at the level of we now have to make the changes in the editor to know how to display this data. So so in the collapsed view, it's still saying object. We'll fix that. In the expanded view, it says it's a regex correctly, but it still thinks it's an object with properties. And indeed, it's enumerated that string. So, but that's good. We've got the information into the editor. So we now go make the corresponding changes in the editor. So just like we edited the util package in the runtime, we go to the util package in the editor. And we just go and find wherever we look for this enc flag, we do some special work. And it's going to be in here somewhere. Just the order of these is slightly important, but I'm going to try sticking it in here. So the object type is regex. then we will probably do meta type. Yeah, I think that's okay. Let's go find where else do we. Basically, wherever we're just adding an extra case in a lot of these places. If the type is regex, and I set it to meta, we set the text to value.data, that's all good. Okay, let's just reload and see where we stand. So we inject. Okay, so you can see in the collapsed view we have the regex is showing. The expanded view, yeah, it shows it. Now I've marked it as meta, it should probably be string. So that's here. Let's go find the other change. I think it was here. Regex, set that to a string type. Now it's certainly true to say a regex object does have other properties, but yeah, but I think that looks good for the object case. So in the collapsed form, you can see it shows the regex. In the expanded form, it shows the regex. All good. So now I just want to fix up when it's the top level object. We don't want to display it as a string. We want to be displaying it as a yeah, we don't want to be displaying it as a string. So that is going to be something else. Kind of hoped we would have handled it already here. Yeah, where else do we deal with? Build message. So build message. This is where we come in, and because it's all recursive, I'm sure you can go back in the archive of the Twitch stream when I did the map and set, and I probably fumbled over trying to find this bit then as well. Entry objects. Here we are at the top level. I mean, this ought to do it, but why doesn't it do it? Is it? Do we know what the format is at this point? It's one of these. I'm sure it must be one of these. So that's the regex we've just added. So where is this? Okay, it's one of these guys that have we come in here? Let's just stick an eye catcher. What I'm going to do, I'm going to disable that debug node because we don't want it polluting. Oh, let's bring the console up. Oops, console, clear the console. Yes, okay, so you can see here, blah de blah, we are coming into this block, so it does think it's a string. Oh yes, there it is. There it is. Let me just. We have this property called type hint, which I think at this point should be regex. But let's have a look what it says. Ooh. No, how have I introduced a typo? Have I introduced a typo? No, must have just saved it weirdly. So I inject, yeah, look here you can see type hint is regex. So, oh yeah, I'm blind to it. Yes, the pattern was already there. It's this, we need this nested. It's either the type hint is regex or it's an encoded object that claims it's a regex. And that will do the right thing. So we refresh, we inject, and we go look at debug. Oh, no, that's not worked. Curious. Oh, no, yeah. There we go. Because we're handling two different scenarios, and in fact, the actual value gets encoded slightly differently in those two scenarios, so we just need to handle that. Cool. That's now working, and if we unmute that dude and we inject, yeah, regexes are being displayed. Awesome. Bug fixed. So, let's go commit that and then crack on with the next bug fix. Handle regex types in debug sidebar. Fixes issue number 3245. Right. Just wait for, there we are. Git push branch. Raise the pull request. This is a bug fix, so I can go into master, and I'm not going to fill out the template. I'm just going to say fixes 3245. Cool. We're going to let that, just let that simmer now. So go back to master, and we can mark this is fixed and take off the needs triage label, and on with the next. So where should we go next? No, maybe let's do what's this one? Oh, okay, so that's what we looked at. That's the issue we looked at last week, the clearing context variables on Project Switch. There's been a bit more movement on that since the last live stream, some debate as to whether we want to change the behavior or actually it ought to be an option, because some people have raised valid scenarios. Oh, no. So if you weren't here last week, this is when you switch projects in the editor. Using the projects feature, we don't delete the contents of context, which could lead, you might have some state in global context then that gets left behind between switching context. So last week's live stream, we fixed it, as in we added the capability to we added the facilities so that we can delete out the contents of context. But in the discussion in the issue and the pull request, some people have pointed out there are some scenarios where perhaps you want that state to stay around. Perhaps you're checking out a new version of the project, so you want to test with data generated by your existing version and some other scenarios that are a bit, in my mind, a bit more of a stretch. But again, if people have these scenarios, they have these scenarios. So we're going to do some extra work. So it's no longer a bug fix. It's now going to be a new feature with a tick box on the project switch dialog to choose what its behavior is. But we're not going to address that tonight. What we're going to look at is this one, which I've not looked at yet. So it's a small visual bug. We like small visual bugs. Well, we don't like them, but we like them because hopefully it's going to be a small visual fix. Using the info tab in the editor. So the active flow shouldn't be visually disabled when clicking the disable circle button of a hidden flow. Let's say you have 5 active flows and use the eye icon to hide 4 of them. Then click on any hidden flow circle icon to also disable it. The flow that was unhidden gets visually disabled. Ooh, interesting. Okay, let's check out a new branch. Disable hidden flow. Start things running, but I can have a play with this whilst we're waiting for it to start up in the background. So let's get this right. So if we hide a bunch of flows, it's interesting, there's been a lot of feedback on the choice of the X icon to hide flows, and people saying they're worried that deletes it rather than hides it, which is very good feedback. It's funny, we've always used that icon for subflow tabs to hide them, to close them. I guess people don't use subflows that much, but yeah. So we're going to have a bit more of a rethink about some of the UX around hiding tabs. Yeah, it's like a minimize icon, or to use the eye icon, which may or may not look okay, but yeah, just to have some. And there's also an issue, it's a bit too easy to click, because the icon's not there. Because we don't always show the icon, it only shows when you hover. Your hand can throw the mouse onto the tab to click it, and as in to click the tab to activate the tab, but then as you look away and you keep moving the mouse then the close button suddenly appears and you close it by mistake. So yeah, there's a couple rough edges to refine anyway, but that's not what we're here for. We are right. I've hidden all those tabs. I'm just going to hit deploy for no good reason. So the issue states, so you can see I've got flow 6 selected, and if I go and disable one of these other flows, it disables the current one, or visually it has disabled the current one. If I unhide 5 and if I just go toggle, it sorts itself out. Out of interest, Cliffo, do you have reopen tab like browsers do? Yeah. So there are show last hidden flow, hide all flows, show flows, hide flow, hide other. Yeah. And we do default a keyboard shortcut on reopen the last hidden flow. So yeah, it helps, but it would also help to not make it so easy to accidentally close stuff. Right. So yeah, we've confirmed disabling a hidden flow did cause the current flow to get decorated incorrectly. Out of interest, so I've now got 5 and 6, and they are both shown, neither are hidden. 6 is active. If I now disable 5, I get the same deal. Look how it's marked the current flows nodes. So in fact, this is nothing about. It's completely unrelated to hiding flows. So I'm going to hit show all flows. Yeah. So if you disable a flow that isn't the active one, it marks all the nodes, it makes the nodes appear disabled. That was a really bad choice because I'm on a flow that has no nodes to demonstrate it. So yeah, let's go to flow 1. I must fix it. Flow 1. I was playing around with just making sure you can have image links in the markdown in the flow description, and for non-narcissistic reasons, I happen to have my standard profile image in my paste buffer at the time. So I keep seeing myself look back at myself there. Anyway, so we're on flow 1. Let's disable this guy, and yeah, it's causing the nodes on the current one to appear disabled. So we just need to track that down. That's all we have to do. Can't say fairer than that. So how do we track that down? Right, if we disable the current flow and we pull up the inspector and we go look at the CSS classes of there we are. So if you can just about make this out, RegUI workspace is the container of the visual element, and you can see here it's got a class of RegUI workspace disabled. So that's the CSS class we apply, which causes the nodes to get drawn like that. If I just remove that class, you can see they now look normal. So the bug is we are setting this class on the workspace, even though we're not the active tab is not the one that has been disabled. So let's copy that class name and go and track down. So we search in the source of the editor, go hunting. So let's collapse all those. So here we go. We've got 11 places where we reference that class name. First one's in the history module, which is about undo. We're not going there yet. We should double check it. This one, flow properties, is the edit panel, which has the disable button at the bottom, which again isn't the workflow we're dealing with at the moment. Editor, yeah, but I think it's in here somewhere. It's going to be one of these guys. So workspaces is the code for managing all the individual workspaces. So let's just step through those matches. Well, now we know there are a bunch in this file, we can search them locally. So here's the first instance, which toggles that class on workspace, but that gets called whenever we switch tabs, and we're not switching tabs, so that's not the one we are interested in. Here we have on add, which is, again, whenever we add a new tab, we set the class, but we set it on the tab itself. So that, again, that's not what we're looking for. Here we have set workspace state. So I think we're homing on it now. Yeah, here we go. So Yep, I can see the bug. Right. So set workspace state is the function that you give it the ID of the workspace and whether it's disabled or not. And then this does the work to toggle it. But it also supports, if you pass in null as the first argument, then it will apply it to the current workspace, which is what this does. So if ID is falsy, it's not a real ID, then it will operate on the active workspace. Down here is where we decide, should we be setting the class on the container? And we should only be doing that if we've toggled the active workspace. And this line of code isn't doing that, because this is basically saying, as long as either the ID you pass in or the active workspace is not null, do the work. Well, this isn't the case. What it's either not ID, as in that you haven't passed in a valid ID, or ID equals active workspace. Is that right? So you've either not passed one in, which means we will use the active workspace, in which case we should be toggling it, or you have passed one in and its value is equal to the active workspace. So again, we should be toggling. Yeah. So rebuild, reload. Now, if we disable, oh no, that hid it. I didn't mean to hide it. We are disabling. Cool. So I disabled that one. I can disable this one. Nice, it was working. And then just to check, if I disable the one we're currently on, it works. And undisable it and toggle that. Toggle. Yeah, that's all working. Awesome. Bug fix number 2. Only toggle disabled workspace flag if on active workspace. Close enough. Fixes issue number 3244. That's 2 issues done, or on their way to being done. Let's get push branch. Done. So let's go find 3244. Takeoff needs triage and flag it's fixed. I mean, they'll get closed automatically as soon as I merge those pull requests, but yeah, it's just nice to whittle down the list. Right. How are we doing? 8:40. Okay, we've probably got time to have a slight couple decent stabs at them. So I think we're going to have a go at this one, which I don't know what the issue is, but this is either going to be quick and easy, or I'm going to say, maybe not for the live stream, and it needs a bit more work. So what's the bug? So this is with the projects feature, using the SSH key authentication that you're able to use. And just reading through. So this particular user, their Node-RED username is an email address, in that it has an @ symbol in the middle. Perfectly valid. I mean, yeah, it's an email address. There's absolutely no reason for it not to be. And for some reason, they can't authenticate. So steps reproduce. So set username to an email address and try to fetch branches of Git system. So configure in the project an SSH-based Git access. Set username generated key. So just having a look through. Basically, where this might be quick and easy is if it's failing to pick up the generated SSH key. If that's not the problem, if it is successfully picking up the generated SSH key, that's where I'm going to say this needs a bit more digging into than I'm going to be able to do on a live stream. But let's get ourselves set up. So let's check out master, check out a branch, email SSH key. Yeah, that'll do it. So let's set up our environment. I'm going to edit my Node-RED settings file with a username, and we'll just do a at b.c. Okay. And then let's run. Whilst that's going, so if I go into my Node-RED directory, is it in projects, .sh keys? Yeah. So in here you can see empty directory. There are no SSH keys. Let us now log in a at b.c, my super secure password. Yes, never. Okay, so we are logged in as a at b.c. We are going to go to settings. No, we're not. We're going to go here to project settings. No, we're not. Settings, palette. Oh, Git, sorry, it was there all wrong. Git config. SSH keys. We're going to add a key. I'm going to call it my bug fix key. Hit generate key. Okay, so there's the key. And for all of you screenshotting and copying that key, rest assured that's not going to ever get used. So now if we look in this directory, you can see we've got the key pair. So, oops. And the way this works is the key files are prefixed with your username and then the name underscore and then the name of your the name of the key, which allows, if you have multiple users, that all the keys can sort of intermingle here and they won't overwrite each other because of the naming. Is that entirely true? That's, well, yeah, it's good enough for now. So now the question is, does the runtime properly try and use that key yeah, I'm just weary of this public key. Where's that come from? Yeah, it's a system one. I can't delete it, which is good. Okay, that's my brain has switched off. Here we go. Storage. So we're in runtime storage, projects, SSH, index. Well, it's interesting. The fact the key gets listed here means we are enumerating it properly. You know what? I think we might be straying into the, oh man, this isn't this isn't the simple thing I thought it might be. So if the key hadn't shown up here, then there could have been a bug in handling the file names with the @ symbol in. The fact it shows up here means we don't have that bug. At which point it sort of moves to the next tier of, okay then, so how do we actually make use of that key? Which is a very good question to ask. And I'm also quite wary of, I think this is getting to the point where to test it properly. Yes, auth.key path. Okay. I'm nearing it in my head. So if we uncomment that line there, yeah, my hesitancy is it might get to the point to test this properly. I've actually got to add some new keys to my GitHub account, and I'm not going to do that on a live stream where frankly, a cunning screenshot and suddenly someone has access to my account. So even though the key would only be there for a very short amount of time, I'm not going to risk it. But what I can do some more debugging without doing that. So what we're going to do is do projects new, and we're going to we want to clone a repository, and we're going to here we are going to go up to GitHub. Then I'm going to go find one of my let's see, repositories, Node-RED app, nope. Is it? Yeah, here we are, PhotoBooth project. So this is a Node-RED project, which I can copy. So obviously I copy the SSH path for, and we select, our bug fix SSH key. And then we hit, we hit clone. Now we expect this to fail because I haven't added, see, authentication failed. That's okay. But here you can see I've printed out the way we invoke Git, the way that was, so we run the Git command line tool as a child process, and the way you do security is quite a headache. But here you can see the command where it's going to invoke the git SSH command, which is the environment variable that tells Git how to invoke SSH, which is what you have to do if you want to tell it to use your own keys. So here you can see we give it the path to a@b.c_bugfix. And yeah, so the question is, does that need any command line escaping? So let's just copy that and fire up a new terminal. And if we just try running that, no, Oh, okay. Now, of course, it's going to give you permission denied. That is not surprising. What I was kind of hoping for was SSH to give me some error message saying, file not found. If I give a invalid file, yeah. So if there was an issue with escaping of the @ symbol, or it hadn't found the file, then it would have spat out this warning, identity file, blah, blah, not accessible. The fact it hasn't spat that out when I run the command, effectively what Node-RED is running, the fact we get the permission denied public key means, quite rightly, we've tried to use this private key, but the public key isn't on GitHub. So, yeah, there's no quick win here, I'm afraid. The next step would be for me to add that private key to my GitHub account and run that test again. And if it connects successfully on the command line, then, well, who knows what's going on. If it connects successfully, great. If I can clone the project, great. That means it works for me, and there's some other issue with their setup. So, which will be a pain. I always prefer, well, as much as I don't like bugs, I always prefer a bug that I can recreate rather than one that I can't recreate, because it's so much harder to fix things you can't see broken. But yeah, I'm not gonna pursue that one on the live stream, because I'm not happy adding in SSH keys on a live stream, even though I could take it off camera and stuff. There's not a quick win to be had, shall we say. Okay, but that's been useful nonetheless. That has taken me down a decent path of understanding what's going on, and we can pick that up another time. Okay, so what next? Where should we go next? I'm not going to run too late tonight, but there was one more. This one that Sam raised earlier that he'd noticed. So, although he didn't use the issue template, naughty Sam. So when you disable a node in the editor, such as an MQT node, its status indicator still shows the previous status, which is confusing, quite rightly. So let us see that in action. Yeah, so here we have a couple of MQTT nodes. Let's connect it. Okay, so it's now in connected state. Then I will disable the node, and you can still see it says, actually I'm not going to, I'm going to disable this one for reasons that will become apparent. Oh, no, again, click the wrong one. I want to disable this one. If I hit disconnect, its status updates. That's because it's at this point it's only disabled in the editor. The runtime isn't disabled in the runtime, so it still receives status events. So if I hit deploy on that one, then here you can see the bug. So this node, which is the true status, says disconnected. This one thinks it's still connected. And that's because disabling a node is the same as removing it. And once you remove a node, it doesn't get any more status updates. So it is there is something to consider is, do we try and fix this? Is this something to fix in the MQTT node? Or is this or does that then mean we have to fix it in each node that might get status updates when it gets disabled. It'd be much better to fix this for everyone. Yeah, nodes shouldn't have to act any differently. So if I hit refresh, you can see it no longer has status. So what does that tell us? That tells us the status message has been cleared from the runtime because the node no longer exists. Let's just go and have a quick squiz at runtime lib API comms. So yeah, here you can see this. Here we can see status events. Here's where we publish, and we retain them, which means we remember them, which is why whenever you reload the editor, whenever you reload the editor, you're able to get the live status, even if the node hasn't. You don't have to wait for the node to update its status. You get its most recent status value. Now, so I think what we do is we are correctly deleting the status when the node is disabled. I think that's a separate issue, and I've got a note to investigate. But the key thing is, if you're clearing status, we delete it, but we don't publish anything to the editor because we want to avoid a status storm being sent to the editor. Now, the rationale works because if you delete lots of nodes, you want to clear up the status, the retained status in the runtime. But if the nodes are deleted, there's no point sending anything to the editor because the node has been deleted. But a node that's been disabled in many ways looks like a node that's been deleted, so we clear its retained status, but it's only been disabled, it has not been deleted, which means there is still the artifact in the editor showing its old status, and because we never send the status event to clear it, it doesn't get cleared. We don't want to send the clearing status message. What I think would be more elegant, perhaps, and again we're in edge case territory here. What would be more elegant would be, well, if you've disabled the node, we know it doesn't have status, so we could in the editor hide the status, and that is probably good, especially because as soon as you reload the editor, it will refresh the status and find there is none, and it won't display any. So it's probably the elegant thing just to hide the status and clear any status we have locally on that node. Okay, so how do we do that? I imagine you're all sat at home thinking to yourselves, that's a very good question, I say, as I try and think it through myself. So we're in the editor code now, editor client, source, JavaScript, nodes. So this file is a huge file that contains the data of all the nodes in your flow. And I believe, but I could be wrong. In fact, I am wrong. What I'm looking for is where's the convenient function used to disable or enable the selection. Let us view tools. What actions have we got here? Distribute, step, move, scroll, hide, select. No, those are genuinely view tools. Somewhere we will have, in fact, let's work backwards. Disable selected nodes. So we want to go find who defines the function disable selected nodes. And as by magic, it appears. Yeah, so it is in view.js, the behemoth of a file. Set selected node state. Here we go. So this does the work to either disable or enable the node. And what we're going to do is so we set the D property to say the node is disabled, which is fair enough. Now, just like we did earlier with looking for the workspace being disabled. Oops, I had it and I just clicked the wrong thing. So if we look at the DOM for the node, here we are, you can see a disabled node has this class, RegUI flow node disabled, which gets set in two places. We don't care about path line here. So this is where this is at the heart of redrawing the node. Yeah. So the very first thing it does is it toggles the node disabled class based on the D property. So we set node disabled if D is true. So what I'm thinking is somewhere later on, so this is all to do with the node label, input ports, outputs, setting up all the event handlers, the node icon. I'll start collapsing some of these sections down a bit. If it has a button, and then here, if d.dirty status. So if the node status has been changed, it will have the dirty status flag set. So we only, because this code is optimized to try and minimize the work it does. So we have lots of flags that get set on nodes as their state changes, so we know what needs doing. So we're at line 4287. Someone remember that, because I'm going to have to find my way back here in a minute. Let's just go have a look at redraw status. Redraw status. And so what this does, thank you Zoramil, that's actually more helpful than you realise. Paste it into the chat at that exact moment. Yeah, so redraw status, it makes some checks to make sure we're trying to update the status of a node that is where we think it is. Then show status is a global flag, because you can turn off status globally. That's not what we're interested in. If the node doesn't have a status property, then we set display to none. What we could say is, likewise, if the node is disabled, this D property, then if that's true, then don't display status. But at the moment, that isn't going to be enough, because if I jump back to line 4287, perfect. You see, we actually only go in there if dirty status is set. So what we need to do is set selected node state. In fact, no, before I do that, let's just go one more look at dirty status. Yeah, that's what I want to check. So in redraw status, if it does the work, it then deletes that flag. So it's kind of like a single use flag. It doesn't mean it's going to get updated all the time. So if we go to set selected node state, is disabled, does all that. Here you can see it sets node.dirty to true. If we also set node.dirty status to true, that means we will redraw the status for that node. And because of that other change we made, we should find that node is right, one at a time. Let's find the node, let's enable it and deploy. Okay, so they have status. Let's get it connected so it's not the default status. Now this node, when I disable it, status is stuck around. That's not fair. And then if I toggle it again, okay. What happens if I invoke the disable selected nodes? Yeah, see, it's worked that time. So, and if I do enable selected nodes, it's come back and the status is come back, which I think is okay. You know, yes, that is okay. What isn't okay is the fact it didn't get disabled when I toggled that. And in fact, if I come in here and toggle it here, it did work that time. But I think that might be because we set dirty status. Essentially, I need to go find the code for the debug sidebar that toggles that node state. And it must be, my guess is it's not using that utility function. So if we, yeah. So here we have somewhere where we're setting the D property to true. And we set dirty status to true as well here. Don't delete the line. And then there must be somewhere else. Yeah. In fact, yes. To do, this ought to be a utility function in red.nodes. So, you know, at least I knew, past me knew I was spreading the code out in multiple places. So, but the key point is, in those two places where we set disabled to true, we'll also set dirty status to true because to force a redraw. So let's check that worked. Find the node and disable it. The status disappears. Enable it again, it comes back. Awesome. Fixed it. Yep, I'm happy with that. That's what we wanted to do. And that kind of makes sense. Eek. Yeah, I'm in the wrong branch. I'm in the email SSH key branch that I gave up on. So this is a clear disabled status. And that's, yeah, I'm gonna revert that change because that was the other thing. Yeah. So having done that, let's just go back to view.js because there's do not show node status if global flag set node has no status, node is disabled. There we are. A little bit of commenting doesn't hurt, especially if I remember to include those comments in the commit. Right, do not show status for disabled nodes. Ooh. Eek. Right, fixes. Sam's bug, what was it? 333. No, status on disable, yeah, 3249. There we are. Cool. Well, that's 3 bugs fixed tonight, which isn't bad. Some news about FlowForge. What news to share? So yeah, we are working towards working on the FlowForge platform. Wanting to get to the point where we can make it public. We want to have what we make public on day one being actually worthwhile, and rather than just having a bunch of work in progress. So yeah, there's a degree of just trying to get the right things in place to be able to do, yeah, so the FlowForge platform's useful. If I let me check what's, yeah, okay, so you can now see this workspace. Haha. Let me oh look, here is the FlowForge platform. Has it? Well. No, kick me out. Why have you kicked me out? Oh, it's kicked me out because I'm in the middle of testing something else. So I can't actually show you anything at the moment. Haha. In fact, will this work? Like I said, I'm working on a bunch of stuff. Yeah. A whole bunch of stuff is broken at the moment because I'm in the middle of working on stuff. But yeah, there's stuff happening. A little sneak peek, but I'm not going to dwell on that. Yeah, we're working hard at trying to get something for you all to start playing with and getting your feedback on it, and then doing stuff. So I'd love to say we'll have something by the end of the year to share more details. Who knows? There's so much going on. One of the real challenges is balancing my time between core Node-RED, FlowForge, and all that sort of stuff. So I've had a couple of weeks of focused more on FlowForge because we've just done the latest Node-RED release. Coming to the point where I need to spend a bit of time on Node-RED again for the 2.2 release in January. But yeah, we are going to be hiring quite soon for FlowForge. So there are a couple roles we're going to start advertising real soon, as in the next few days, if not sooner. So if you're interested, wait and see. There may be something you want to get more involved with. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's exciting. It is exciting. And there's just a mountain of stuff to do. So, but on the Node-RED side, because at the end of the day, this is the Node-RED live stream. I'm always conscious of trying to keep a clear distinction, even though there will be overlaps at plenty of times. So please see 3247. 3247. Where is 3247? Oh, sorry, I was looking at pull requests. That's why I couldn't see it. 3247. Yeah, I did see that issue. It was on. Well, let's say it was one of a bunch of the ones that needed triage, and we've run out of time tonight to do it on the live stream. But absolutely, Mitrano, we will look at it. I can't remember what. To be honest with you, so let's just see what quickly before. Let's find a nice. Okay, so if I create a group there, and then if I select those two and drag them, well, you can't drag them into the group. Yeah, so it is actually true to say the code only lets you drag one node in to a group. You can't drag more than one node. So that is actually working as implemented. If you wanted to add those two nodes to the group at the moment, you'd select the group and those two nodes, and then I think you should be able to say merge selection, and that will do what you want. But yeah, so this isn't a bug. This is working as implemented. It very purposefully implemented that way for reasons. It's not to say, yeah, so it would be a bug if we expected that to work and it didn't. I know that is not supported doing that, so it is not a bug in that regard, but I absolutely agree it would be useful to be able to do that. So I will take it out of needs triage. I'll say it's editor enhancement, and yeah, we'll leave it there. And I'll add a comment after the live stream. I would do it. Have you all watch me add a comment to that. So yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. We will improve that, but it at this point, unless it's a simple change, it will be a 2.2 feature for January as a new feature rather than bug fix. Yeah, so tonight that's 3 pull requests in, a dip of the toe into that SSH key handling one, but more work needed. The other 2, which we've not touched on, I'll quickly mention. The link cool node, again, this is a feature enhancement. It's not a bug, strictly speaking, but it is a reasonable request. So I won't. There we are. Sorry, and it's node. There we are. So this is a desire to be able to use the new link cool node from inside a subflow to outside the subflow. And at the moment you can't use link nodes, the existing link nodes, in or out of subflows at all for sound technical reasons. The link cool node is slightly different, and semantically could actually be made to work. So that's a reasonable feature request. So, but it's not a bug. It's a feature request, which could well turn up on a Monday live stream. This one is a bit nasty. This came up on the forum this evening or early this afternoon. There's a user who's writing 500 meg of data to context, and it's causing all manner of trouble, which, yeah, it takes time to serialize and write a 500 megabyte JSON object. We're not particularly optimized to do that sort of workload. It'd be better to use a database or some other data store rather than just trying to dump, because it updates every 5 minutes. So they're trying to rewrite 500 meg of data every 5 minutes, or serialize it. And because of the single threaded nature of JSON.stringify, it causes all sorts of trouble, including this. So yeah, we've already got items on the backlog for making the file store more efficient in the way it writes data. Yeah, Ben's added some comments. Yeah, and I think there's a bit more context to add to what Ben said. But yeah, it's a nasty issue because effectively the data is too big for JSON.stringify, and if you search this error, the invalid string length, it's a well-known issue with JSON.stringify. Some of the workarounds are, well, okay, so if you know you've got a huge array, stringify elements of the array and then just wrap it with square braces. You do it that way. Trouble is, we're stringifying user data and we have no knowledge of its structure. Or, yeah, you could say, well, just look at it. Well, if it's an object with like 2 properties and then nested 10 deep, there's a 500 megabyte array. Sniffing out the entire structure to try and find that sort of scenario is super inefficient, and this code is already on the critical path. So anyway, yeah, it's a sticky one, and I'm not sure we're going to have a quick answer for. But there we are. That's all our needs triage issues for the time being. A successful week, and it's time to sign off. So thank you all for joining. As ever, do say hi. Do let me know if there's anything particular you'd be interested in seeing more of. More Flowforge is not an option right now. And otherwise, I will be back, as far as I know, next Monday for another 90 minutes or so of speedrun bug fixing or some new feature development. Who knows? I tend to decide a few minutes before I go live. So, but like I said, if there's anything you'd like to see, just let me know. And for that, as I scrabble around for the button, good night all. Have a good one. Bye.